Joe Van Cleve, and these are Confessions of an Office Supply Junkie. I recently had an opportunity to meet up with a fellow office supply junkie at the recent April 2018 ABQ Type Out. So there are a number of office supply products that I enjoy using on a regular basis, and I like these old staplers. You know, I do use a stapler once in a while, but there's cheap little plastic ones you buy at the office supply stores these days. But this is a nice heavy-duty stapler. This is an ADM 567 stapler. It uses conventional pre-manufactured staples. But at this last week, I met a man by the name of Bill Tefft. I've known Bill for a while. He's attended other type outs, but Bill is not only a typewriter fanatic, he is an office supply fanatic, and one of his specialties is he has a collection of Bates wire staplers. These are staple machines that use a roll or a reel or a spool of typically brass wire, and the staple machine uses the brass wire to make a staple. Every time you staple it, every time you operate it, it folds, cuts, and staples a piece of brass wire into a staple in the paper. And so I interviewed Bill during the type out, and so here is the interview of fellow office supply junkie Bill Tefft.
Well, hi Joe. We're here at the Penny Smiths down here on Rio Grande. The third, what is it? The third biannual, semi-annual.
The third biannual, semi-annual disorganized type in.
Right on.
Or type out.
Always glad to be here.
It's glad to have you.
Well, you know, along with typewriters, every good office had to have a stapler.
Oh yeah.
And my favorite stapler, and a favorite of a lot of other people, are the Bates wire staplers. And the Bates wire staplers they take a brass wire, run it through the machine, push it through here. As you press down, it would not only advance the wire, but then it would crimp it and cut it at the same time, producing a tiny brass staple that would never rust. It was small. Archivists loved them because you could pack a lot of documents into a small space. And so today I brought one of pretty much every model that they made. This is the Model A. This was the first one they brought out back in the mid-20s. It used the same mechanism. Yeah, the mechanism had evolved in design over the years, but it's essentially the same way they made them. Bates was not the only company that made wire staplers, but they were the broadest sold. This is a Model A. This is a Model B. This is an early Model B. This is a mid Model B, and this is a late Model B. And then this is the last one they made, Model C. They stopped making these about the late 60s. They stopped making these.
Wow.
During each of the eras, from the 20s to the 60s, these were fairly expensive to purchase. In 1927, this machine was $9.95, which was a lot of money in the 20s. Through the Depression, the price still held. During the Depression, this machine and also this machine would have been $12 to $15, which was a good, a good person's wages back in the Depression. During the war, when brass became scarce or used for the war effort, they made wire out of steel. Not quite as good, and of course they went back to brass right away, but this is a war era, or World War II era spool of wire. The machines today, you can pick these up, except for the Model A, all of these machines I haven't paid more than $15 a piece for. In most cases that'll include some wire. Okay. There are folks out there that'll put wire back on a spool, so if you find one with a spool, you don't need to worry. You can still get wire for it. But I can find one of these Model C's for anywhere between $15 and $20. Which was actually half the price of what it was new.
Yes. Yeah.
And they work perfectly, beautifully every time.
Wow.
Yeah. So they were made to last. Obviously, this one is 80 years old, and it works just as well as it did the day it was made. The biggest problem is corrosion and rust, almost with everything. This one is in particularly good shape. This side has seen a little more wear than this side, but this one is about the best example Model A that I've ever found. The other factor is, can you read the name on the knob? In some of these, the name has virtually worn off. Okay, but this one, for being as old as it is, a Model A, that is really a superb condition. The handles are not really replaceable. Once they wear off, that's pretty much the way it is. The other thing is, in the early models, there was a set of tweezers to help load the wire.
Oh yes.
So they're very rare with the tweezers. You very seldom find them with the tweezers. This model I happen to find with the tweezers. This one here, the mid model, also with the tweezers. But as they moved along, this is the late Model B, no tweezers. They didn't need them.
Oh, I see.
They had the mechanism perfected so that you didn't need tweezers anymore.
Wow.
Okay, so from this point on, they didn't need the tweezers, but that's another factor.
Very cool.
You'll find a lot of these machines in all of these eras heavily used. These were machines that were used in an office every day. They were used hard. They were a lot of times you find them with a lot of corrosion, and Bates during its time period did a lot of different finishes. Here we have a olive drab type finish, almost kind of like an army type finish.
Yeah.
I've seen examples of the Model A and the early Model B that are just totally covered in corrosion and rust. Really, really poor condition. Later on, they tried a chrome base, and I've seen these where there's been a lot of pitting and a lot of corrosion. See, when you're looking at on eBay and you're collecting these, and these are not hard to find. These are very, very common. I've found them in absolutely terrible condition with the handles missing or replaced by a piece of wood, and they still function. So if you want a wire stapler, almost anyone can be coaxed back into service if you really want a nice wire stapler. They are fun to use. They always work. They're great to use. You can still find, if you can find with a bit of wire left on the spool, then that's even better. This one's wired to, you can see that it's already wired, so to replace the spool, you would pull this up, and this whole thing is like a cartridge. It pops in.
Oh, I see.
The early ones, it was just a round spool,
right?
And you had to fit it in there. It was friction fit in there.
I see.
Here's a.
Oh, so just like you have typewriter ribbon collectors, there are Bates wire spool collectors, and yes, wow.
And that's a Model A.
Oh,
this is the one that fit.
Yeah. Oh wow, very cool.
And still has the paper wrapping. This spool has never been out of this tin.
Wow. Very cool.
almost 90 years. A lot of us stapler aficionados think of these as the best staplers ever made. These were really the best staplers ever made, and they really are special and unique American manufacture.
Very good.
Genuine, all American made. This is what you need.
Yeah.
I use one at work, and
fantastic.
it's not. I have one. You know, obviously you get them in. I've got some of these. I've got some that are in just absolutely miserable condition. The handle's a piece of wood, or not at all, or a washer. Somebody's bolted a washer onto the or something,
right.
just to keep it going.
Yeah.
And it still works.
Oh, wow.
Little oil, put a little oil, and
yeah,
works great. A beautiful stapler from a good old American manufacturer.
Well, I might be looking for one of these myself now. You're an enabler.
Thanks, Joe. Well,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that.
You bet.